comment on this early material before we get into the topic?
The only thing I would like to talk about is the, where it says you are not required to either boldface in that or underline in that, so that it's easier to see. It's in the following 5 questions, it's verified.
It's on the first
First
page.
page, down towards the bottom, under the boldface, the following 5 questions is you are not required to answer them. I'd just like to see that boldface or underlined or something.
And did you guys catch that?
Sorry.
Are you ready to go, or are you still working?
Let's see, can you access your email? I just make the changes on my machine since I got it right up. Okay. She's not able to pull it up because can't access her email from that machine. So I can just make any changes. I've got it up here and then I'll give them to Stacy.
Okay, I don't know if you heard that on the first page where the paragraph which is bolded says the following 5 questions. Brian asked that you also bold that you are not required to answer them to complete the rest of the survey.
Okay.
Did you want that whole thing bolded or just?
Just not required. Yeah, just
Just not required?
Or underlined.
underlined or bold, just so that it stands out.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any other issues on the next page? Again, this is all just providing information from the respondent. And then we have the section dealing with the general community concepts, asking people what strengths and values are most important, what ethics do you think should guide local government? Okay, so the next section is the one that's kind of giving us some fits here. This next section starts with, actually this is where people who reside outside of city limits but work within city limits be eligible to serve on city boards. Any issues with that one? Yes, no, I don't know, need more information, and other. Okay, same thing for the next one. Should people who reside outside of city limits but own a business or secondary residence within city limits be eligible to serve on city boards? And both of these, of course, prefaced by where state statutes permit. So that kind of covers us on state law.
My only question with both of these is that if I was a recipient, I might ask, is this unlimited in the sense that could the board be populated entirely out of non-city residents? Could people from out of state or with larger corporate interests, because of a property owned within city limits, participate in a city board? I think those might be.
It would be pretty hard for them to participate if they're out of state.
Well, like
You can't do it by.
the Depot, for example, was bought by people that live in Texas.
What was that called?
The old railroad depot was bought by people who live in Texas. So like,
But you'd have to be there within the meeting.
oh, yeah.
You can't do it with, I guess, open meetings.
Or if, let's say they're high rollers and willing to fly in once a month for those meetings or something like that. Is that something we're not likely to encounter, but is somebody going to ask the question?
Once we get past this stage of the yes or no that the people put in, we can put I thought about that too. My idea was one person for each board is the max amount can be. But I'm thinking right now, just get the yes or no answer, whether the community thinks about it.
And that is the board for the charter, you mean?
Pardon?
And then we can determine that as,
Yeah.
okay.
It makes sense
Yeah,
to me.
that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, because I can't even imagine if we got into that on the survey.
Yeah.
Okay, now the sticky wicket ones, the term of office and term limits. We talked about, of course, removing a lot of the extra verbiage so as not to put people off from answering. However, the question in my mind that occurred to me was, what is our assumption about how much people already know about what the term limits are for city government? And would it make sense if we could even just put just a couple of lines of context descriptor in there, just so that we state what the current limits
Could we do an asterisk and then put at the end a little paragraph of description, and then if someone actually wanted to read? My concern is if we put it all right here and it's a big long paragraph, people are gonna skip right
Skip it
over
right
it.
over, yeah.
That's why if we could avoid a big, long paragraph and just do like a couple of lines.
That's already, I already think that's
You
too
know,
much
think
for
it's Too
people.
much for people?
I do, I think that when you get a survey, if it's long, people aren't gonna fill it out. But that's my opinion.
I mean, we could always do another survey where we get a lot of, I don't know, need more information responses. And that would tell us maybe they did need the context. If we don't, then it would suggest that they need context.
Well, or maybe we use that to lead us as far as where we do education.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was also thinking for this topic particularly, if we're going to choose to pursue it, what I was thinking was to gather the data from this and kind of get a sense of where people are, and then if we need to do focus groups, or if we need to do an in-person public, well, I don't know if I want to do a public forum en masse, but I think I'd almost rather do focus groups, maybe a few different focus groups, to see what people do understand, what their questions are. I mean, it would be more of an interactive kind of thing so we could flesh it out. But that's, there are different ways to proceed after we get the survey data. So what is the consensus? Are you okay with this the way it is?
I'm okay the way it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it the way it is.
All right, very good. How many years should one city commission term last? 2 years, 4 years, other, and same for the mayor.
Are we questioning the length of term or just how many consecutive terms they can have?
Well, I think the length of term is the first one.
We
Yes, and once
ask,
the city
should there be
commission
term
term lasts,
limits? It
that's the length.
seems to make sense to me
Or
to
if it's
ask
mayor.
how long those terms should be.
Term limits refers to how many terms you can serve consecutively. What the length of those terms is a separate issue. Now, of course, they've been 4 years, all around I don't know when they changed that. It might have been the 2012 or the one before that. Because I know the mayor used to be 2 years. And it might have been the last commission that made that into 4 years. I don't remember the history exactly. But in any case, I don't know how people feel about that. It might be worth just fleshing it out, see what we get.
It just seems to me like you're leading with such a broad question. Do you support term limits at all? And then to not
Specify the length of
those
the.
terms are. But you could delete it like you were saying, you could delete it and then supply that information later, or like in a notes section or something like
What do you guys think? Consensus, do you want to leave it as is, or would you rather take it out and end it later?
I would leave it the way it is.
I think it gives us a good mind frame for what the community is looking at or considering or wanting. I hate for us to take out stuff we wish we would have had in there.
Thoughts, Foster?
I like it the way it is. I think that the questions regarding term limits and how long terms should last are really clear and to the point, like pretty easy for people to respond to. And if we get like responses that seem like they indicate that people want to talk about it more, then follow that up. And if we don't, then we got the information that we wanted.
Okay.
I could see that we could add a question, how many terms should someone be able to serve? I don't think that's on there. missed it, because I kind of, because we ask, do you support term limits? And then we ask how long the terms should be, but we don't ask how many terms.
How many years? Maybe that's a better
We did
question.
ask,
How many
no,
are per
just
term?
total years.
But that, because that's what it gets down to, right?
Yeah, but I think it's just easier to say,
Well, if there's math involved.
yeah. I mean, I think.
I don't care either
we
way,
can
I'm just
avoid
saying.
letting people do their own math or expecting them to do their own math and just say, how many terms do you think someone should serve? Like, and if they're like unlimited or 3, you know, and then they answer, terms should only be 2 years. That they did the math themselves or not,
They've given us an answer.
they've given us the answer.
How many, I think this should be framed as consecutive terms is the only thing, specifically what it is. How many consecutive terms?
What are we doing?
City
Are you adding
commissioner,
another question?
yeah.
After how many years should a mayoral term last?
Yeah.
How many terms can,
How many
consecutive
consecutive terms?
should a city commissioner
Yeah.
Okay with everyone? Yep. Everyone hear that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
How many
Like blocking.
terms?
Should a city commissioner be permitted to serve? And then the same question for mayor. And I will, that can be right in, but we might get some wonky answers. So maybe multiple choice, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sure.
So. I really like how we were able to break the issue of mayor and commissioner into separate questions.
This is so much clearer, I think.
Good job.
Simpler, yes. Yes. 1, 2, 3, or 4.
That following question is still, it's longer than all the other questions.
It's okay though, as long as a lot of them aren't long, I think.
By then, you've already got them into answering.
Right, they're already invested at this point.
Okay, yeah, you got halfway
You don't quit here.
through.
I mean,
You quit here.
if they skip it and they answered all the other questions, it should
We
still
got
give
the,
us,
we got the meat of what we wanted
Yeah.
to.
that's what I think, like at least we got parts of the information that will help guide us.
Okay, so now we're moving past the term limits, we're moving the term limit questions. Moving on to the question about separating the previous service from the service as mayor, was that the one you were talking about? Yes, okay, so we're on with that.
I do have a suggestion for that, because we're asking about the terms and the term limits. I think instead of saying 2 terms as city commissioner and then 2 terms as mayor, just do a term for each. So that way we're not, because if someone says people can only have 1 term or something like that, it doesn't confuse them.
Say that again?
You confused me.
So on the last line of the question in parentheses,
Yeah.
we have an example where they can serve 2 terms as a city commissioner and then be elected to 2 terms as mayor. But we're asking about how many terms and things like that. So if we take the number part out and just say a term as city commissioner,
Maximum term.
Where are you putting that in?
Say what you, tell me the wording you were thinking. Should
So,
should a
just-
person be able to serve,
I would suggest replacing the word 2
Uh-huh.
both times with a.
I see what
so
you're saying.
should a person be able to serve a term as a city commissioner and then be elected to
A term,
a term as mayor?
yes.
They're already able to do that.
That's why I said, instead of a maximum, should they be able to serve the maximum amount of terms as a city commissioner and then serve as mayor?
I would be okay with that as well.
We don't even need to say how many terms as mayor, just
Okay,
be
so
able to
now we're
serve
doing-
as mayor.
Should a person be able to serve,
But then the question comes up, what's maximum?
Yeah,
You're not saying that here.
It doesn't matter what the maximum is, because we're asking them already what the maximum should be. we don't know what the maximum is. We're asking them what the maximum should be, and they might say it's 4-year terms or 2-2-year terms, and we'll determine that as based on the answers that we get. Whatever the maximum is, what we need to know is, can they then serve as mayor?
I think maybe rather than an example, because we're getting a little lost in language here, it might be better to go back for a rephrase of that entire paragraph. And I think the words count toward or count together are kind of important here. In other words, should a person's service as city commissioner count toward their term limitation as a mayor?
Works for me also.
So
So,
in person service, city commissioner.
I would shorten that even, sorry, and just say, should a city commissioner's immediate past service count toward their term limits if they
That didn't work for me.
Now I'm getting.
So let's build on it. So right now it's, should a city commissioner's immediate past service count toward their term limits if they're elected? So let's simplify. Should a person be able to serve, should a person's service as city commissioner count separately than their service as mayor, where term limits are concerned?
I think that's more confusing than what we already have. I see where you're going with it, but we understand the question. I don't know that survey respondents will. I do think that the example that we have here does a fairly good job of simplifying it for them. I'm not saying that it couldn't be changed to something that was equally clear or better, but I'm not sure that the wording that you gave more clear.
Should a person's service as city commissioner count toward their term limitation as mayor?
Or that works for me.
Stacy, once you type that up, then can you save that to that?
Yeah.
You're done, Ann, with your.
Sure, I'm also typing it into the document.
No, but I need it for the minutes.
Okay. Should a person's service as city commissioner count toward their term limits as mayor?
Would you put, like, just before, should, would you put a 2 on there? So I can make a notation in here. Next, and then are we getting rid of this whole thing then, Ann, and just putting that one little sentence on there?
No, we're getting rid of the statement in parentheses that starts with for example and ends with mayor question mark.
Okay.
So is this gonna also be in parentheses?
Yes.
The new language is in parentheses.
Should term limits consider a candidate's previous service as a city commissioner separately from their service as mayor? Or, comma, should a person's service as city commissioner? Actually, that's kind of an opposite framing of that first sentence, isn't it? So maybe it should a person's service as city commissioner not count toward their service as mayor? That way it's reaffirming the first statement rather than changing the. So Stacy, in front of count in that sentence, let's try putting not. Because, the
Oh, so it's-
statement that it follows
see, that makes
frames it the opposite way, so I think it's confusing if we.
It's like taking the SAT.
I feel like putting a negative in there though is gonna confuse people.
Okay.
Maybe we should just go back to,
Original.
We should just go back to deleting the parenthetical and leaving the first part as a statement.
Just use the first part of the sentence, get rid of the for example part.
Yeah, that's what I would do,
And hope people get it.
Just get rid of count towards,
yeah. This is like,
I don't remember if I.
Just have it, yeah.
when we get these ordinances or things we used to have to vote for, legalese was that if you vote yes, you really mean no, and if you vote no, you really mean yes. And we're asking the city attorney, now, which is it? You know, if I want to vote this way, what is my answer?
Yes.
I would say, yeah, just delete everything after mayor question mark, the first sentence of that question, so everything from for
So now
example
she's
to
getting
mayor,
rid of
just
the
strike
sentences
it.
completely.
Okay, did you hear that, Stace?
Sentence stays.
Everything in the parentheses, just strike it,
Is any of that going anywhere?
in the original one.
I don't think so. I
Are we keeping the original?
think so.
Yeah.
We're just gonna keep the original wording and tell the parentheses and then get rid of the parentheses, is that what I'm understanding?
Yep.
Okay.
So that goes away. Okay,
Right?
did we change the 2 to an 8 term?
No, that was in the.
We got rid of the whole thing.
Yeah.
We got rid of the whole thing. Came back around to the very beginning. Okay. All right. So should city commissioners be required to resign before running for mayor? That's the resign to run one. That seems pretty straightforward.
The only question is, I think it still leaves people wondering, are they required to right now? Is this saying, should they not be, or should they be, kind of thing?
We'll leave that to I don't know, we need more information.
Sure.
I mean, frankly, I would be delighted to get those answers. Because that means they're at least interested in learning more about it, thinking and talking about it. So that would be okay. And that's the end of our, okay. I like. Did we do the residency?
Yeah, that's on the,
Yeah, these pages that are front and back make it harder.
Okay, so we do have this last section, below, share any additional input you would like the Charter Review Commission to take in during the process. And that's an open answer function, yes? Alrighty, okay, couple of things to consider. This is what we're getting to the middle of November. So, number one, there was already a city survey up about housing stories. The city was seeking housing stories. So I don't know how you feel about trying to launch another one, another city survey, well, not really a city survey, it's our survey, but another survey while theirs is up, and I don't know how long we're planning to keep that.
What's the, how are they sharing it?
Steve Gove is in charge of this. There's a QR code that keeps getting posted on Facebook. I think probably through the newsletter that goes out with the utility bill, they've been doing that. I don't know exactly if they're asking questions, because they're asking people to share their housing stories.
you're asking, I did it and I can't remember.
Did you? Okay, so they ask you questions?
It was so not relevant for me though, because I bought my house 20+ years ago, you know?
Yeah.
So I did fill it out, but I remember thinking, this does not pertain to anything, any of the information they're looking for now.
Yeah.
My house was reasonably priced 20 years ago.
Glad to hear it.
Yes.
Well, what is our situation about getting this launched? And how are we gonna do
As
that?
soon as we agree on it, I mean, it's already out there and live, I just go in and edit our changes into the questions, and we already have, we'll give the link or the contents however he wants them to Tim.
And we can share them ourselves as well, like, our own personal Facebook or via email to.
Absolutely.
Are you seeing the city survey? You said you're seeing it on Facebook?
On the city page.
On the city
Big
website,
Rapids.
okay.
I'm not really worried about people being like surveyed.
No, I'm not either.
They're different enough
And
that,
if they're interested, they'll fill it out. If they're not, they won't, period.
yeah.
I'm not
That's right.
seeing
Unless I
it
beg them.
on the city website at present. Is it like,
Which survey are you looking for?
The housing,
Oh, probably under planning
maybe on a
commission,
community
or
development.
probably community development.
Where I saw it, actually, I saw it on the city Facebook page.
That's what I'm going to
and
look
that's what
right
I
now.
was looking at, but I don't see it there.
Sometimes you can search a page.
I'm searching it.
Are we requesting that members of this commission not fill out the survey?
Are we?
I'm just like, I mean,
Oh, you mean our survey?
yeah.
I'm like, I filled out the housing one, why shouldn't I have?
It seems like, because we can answer those questions and discuss it ourselves. I don't know that like our opinions should count toward,
It looks like
No,
that.
this is really to gauge public
right?
input,
Yeah.
not our input.
August 31.
It's like,
no,
oh, we
that's not
got
the right one,
8
that's a mess.
responses.
Yeah, no.
Yes, you can contact me.
Here it is. They've got it under featured
Okay.
from October 22. What is your housing?
How many of you have Facebook pages?
I do.
I do.
Facebook page?
Don't use it much anymore? Nobody ever uses it much anymore?
Well, whoever has a Facebook page, we can share the link, once we have the link. That way. I can do the radio circuit again and let people know, you know,
We put it on our page as well, so if they can,
absolutely. Oh, yeah, totally,
I just need to know
totally.
when do we want this to go
right
live?
now.
So that means, you know, the survey link is gonna go up on, you're gonna notify Tim
Yeah.
when that's ready to go. Then the data are coming back to you? How did we decide we're doing that?
I will ask him how he wants that to go from a data security standpoint. If he wants basically to set up a, like a URL as a refer
Yeah.
that still sends it back to my data collection tool, or whether he wants to have like a city, a separate city account be the collector. Either one is.
The odds we could get like a QR code to survey that we posted to the bulletin board in the lobby of City Hall.
A direct QR code to the survey?
Be easy to do.
Thinking, you know, it's like people come in and out, like, I don't think we're gonna get a lot, but like, I don't think that it would be effective to put like QR codes all over town.
Well, I was leery about trying to do the QR code when Michigan had the trail thing. It was over by Sweet Hill Park, you know, because of the counterfeit QR codes that can be used and
Yeah.
blow up your phone. So I was really leery. I did not. I went online to go fill it out. But I didn't want to snap a QR code out there in the middle of, you know.
Would you feel more comfortable if the QR code was in the lobby here at City?
Yeah, here I would feel more comfortable.
So maybe a piece of paper that's got the QR code, but also like a link that people could write down,
Right,
go to their computer and type it in. If they
Yeah.
makes them feel more comfortable,
yeah.
gives them the reassurance that this is the place that you should be filling out the survey. So if you click the QR code and it doesn't match the link,
Yeah, I mean, it gets, you know,
It really depends on on Tim's ability to generate like a short URL, whether or
Yep.
not it's something that can be made quick and typable. I don't know what his capacity is. That way I can certainly make a QR code. If you post it on something that also has the name of the site that it's going to refer them to, that's probably the best. Or depending on what position they can give us with this, if they can give us something that's visible from the main site, we could just say, go to cityofbr.org and click the link there too.
Ann, who did you say you guys were gonna send the link to? It should be sent to Steve, probably.
To Steve? Okay.
Yeah, cause he's the one in charge of putting it on our,
Website.
website page and Facebook and, he's the one that's gonna be getting it out. Yeah.
Okay. Don't worry about it. I'll get it later.
And he gets it as soon as he can get it out and on it.
No, I've gotta get it.
We already have a QR code for our main page.
For our main page, which
That's
is
where they're gonna link to the survey, so we can use that QR code.
That's the other thing I was wondering, should we just give them the QR code we already have out in the world? And say, click the link to take our survey.
It would be nice if we could get a redirect link. Does that mean anything to anybody? If you go to our page on here, it's, the link is that long, and it's Res Biz or something. If we could get to do a redirect, which means they would go into cityofbigrapids.org/CRC, that would send it right to, it would redirect it to the page we want. That's, would be the best way to do it, and then we could use CRC as our link. And Tim should be able to do that.
Oh, you're saying we should be asking Steve that, not Tim?
Well, I don't know that Steve can do that part,
Okay.
but definitely he can get on he can put the survey on our page, get it on Facebook.
Okay.
I don't know about that reading thing.
A programming
do I.
thing I would give to Tim.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Ann's you're gonna take care of this.
I'm gonna, make the changes that we just made tonight to the actual survey in the like on Google and send it to you to confirm. And then if you confirm, I will submit it to Steve and ask him how he wants the responses part.
Let's see, what else did I want to bring up about this? So we're not worried about, is there an end date that we want to set on this, or you want to just leave it up for a while? Thing is, we're getting into December holidays. I think we're going to lose some population because of the snowbirding phenomenon, so,
People can access the internet from anywhere.
well, that's true.
So
That's
if they
true.
follow the City of Big Rapids on Facebook or get the newsletter or whatever means we're able to share it. I would think that we can look at the responses whenever we want. Before it's over, I would just leave it indefinitely.
I always feel like if there's an end date to something, there's more of a sense of urgency to do it. Where if I think I have unlimited time, I'll be like, oh, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. Is that just me?
Never gets done.
No, that's true. That's true too.
I feel like I just do things if I have the time. Like, I'll be listening to a podcast and it'll be like, please go to this address and take a survey about our podcast. And I'm like, I am in the shower. I cannot write that down. But if I'm not, then, and I'm not at work, then I might do it. It's just whether or not I have the time right then.
Well, let me throw this
That's
into the
me.
mix. First of all, depending on what kind of response we get, and then survey responses are traditionally low. So, I would suggest, because, if we want to do any kind of follow-up on the data with an in-person thing, we need to schedule time for that. We're gonna be getting into the first half of the next year. We're trying to hit the September, latest October mark to send it off to the government. So, kind of thinking backwards from that, I guess I would suggest maybe, we're in the middle of November, maybe leave it up till the middle of January
2 months.
and see how we're doing with it. And then if we really feel a need to be doing some in-person follow-up as a result of that, we have some time to do that, make the changes as we gather the data. How's that sound? Make sense? Okey-dokey. think takes care of the survey. So, if there's nothing else on that, thank you all very much. Wonderful input on that, and I'm excited to see get that thing. Old business, I recall from my notes from last meeting, basically.
We still gotta go over the outreach, the did you know thing?
Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
That's at the very end of your packet.
That's the note I'm gonna have put into the water bill, the December water bill.
Oh.
Add the QR code to it.
Okay, Brian was suggesting he wants this blurb to go into the newsletter
Yeah.
that goes out with the utility bill. And I think we do need to, we determined we need a www on the city of New York.
I had,
No, we do not.
We don't need it?
You do not need it.
what I was suggesting was, if it says, right now, if you go to the city website and look for a link to the charter commission, they'll never find it. So what I always feel you should follow, give them a path. So I was recommending, if you go to the city
I
website,
would take out the if you go. Just go to the city website,
Just go to,
okay,
go to
List
govern,
the city
go to
website.
government, go to charter commission, charter revision commission.
you were gonna say, go to
Okay, go
cityofbr.org/CRC.
okay. No, I need to walk them to how to get there.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, why don't we just give them the address, instead of telling them to go to the website and then click on something?
Okay, let's see how this.
Not that long, is
This
it?
goes into that whole website redirect thing, so you can get that short, so it'd be
Okay.
cityofbr.org/CRC, and that would take them directly there.
So
I'm gonna
put
set
the
that up first.
redirect address in here instead of this, there we go.
I will,
See, this is a redirect address.
yeah, I will talk to Tim tomorrow about getting a redirect address, and I will put that, the smallest address I can in there.
Okay, then you wouldn't have to walk them through how to get to it. Okay, I see
Okay,
it.
so let me make sure I understand this now. This redirect address is gonna take them directly to our page, correct? So they don't have to go through the city main page.
Then, yeah, then that eliminates all of that other stuff.
So that we don't need to look for the link to the charter commission, right? So we're gonna say, go to cityofbr.org/CRC. And I don't know if you wanna say left-hand column, you will find a link to a document that shows preliminary changes, right? Because you're not gonna see the document come up unless you click on it.
What is, how does the document appear?
It's the one that has like all her strikeouts and the red print and the blue print.
No, but I mean, like, is it under a link in the left navigation?
Yeah. Well, Tammy has its revisions up to a certain date.
But,
She'll show you, she'll show us.
Charter Revision Commission.
Technology stuff's gonna kill me.
no, go to department.
Thank you for doing that, Brian.
That's what I mean, it's there somewhere.
I just saw
No,
it.
It was
it's
under
government.
Under government.
If you go to government, I'm going
Or
to
going
the,
down on the
Yeah.
boards and commissions. And above the city commission.
there you go.
There we go. There we are.
That's grand.
That's our,
There we are.
Yeah.
our address up there. You wanna put that down and have somebody copy that? No.
The answer to that is,
Yeah.
And so.
so we have revisions of the charter as of,
So then, let's see, at citypr/CRC. And click revisions to the charter as of.
Okay, so I don't have a clue what we're doing.
What's Tim's last name?
Mosliner. Moslenner.
Go to,
Mosliner.
Yep,
So he's gonna be Tim
there will already be,
Dot.
it'll go right there, so you don't
Mosliner.
find a link.
He should be T. Mosliner at cityofbr.org. Yeah, it's our first initial last name.
Okay, no periods.
No.
Okay. And then we're gonna have the survey up.
So that'll read, now the commission needs input from the community. Go to cityofbr.org/CRC and click revisions to the charter as of, period.
Sorry.
To see what preliminary changes have been made. Look it over and let us know how you feel. Short survey you can. We shorten that to look it over and share your thoughts. Via the survey link that appears below it. Or email crc@cityofbr.org.
Okay, so what's the last sentence there?
I'll read the
Survey at
whole
all or
thing.
not?
Nice and loud, so everybody.
Sorry, go to the city, or sorry, go to cityofbr.org/CRC and click quotation marks, revisions to the charter as of, close quotes, to see what preliminary changes have been made. Period. Look it over, or no, sorry, share, so taking out look it over. So where look it over starts, just share your thoughts via the survey link that appears below it, or email crc@cityofbr.org.
That will be easier.
They'll be going out the December, September water bill, or December water bill.
We knew what you meant.
Okay, I'm glad you did.
Steve's got a spot saved for you right now for the newsletter?
Pardon?
And Steve, go,
Yeah.
he's got a spot? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, now to old business. The only item I have here is, I think Foster asked about the definition of spread under section 9.7.
Excited to hear.
So my understanding, Tammy reached out to Dan Kerwin, who is our assessor, and he said that spread means, quote, portion, allocate, distribute appropriately. And he suggested that we keep it in as it is a known term in the assessing.
Not in our world.
Portion, allocate, distribute appropriately.
And also create the role, distribute appropriately, allocate, that's what spread means. I said, do you think we should keep it in? He said, well, that's what we understand in the section. But
Okay,
that
but-
chapter is beginning to the section.
The question I have is the charter essentially the guardrails for people employed at the city to, or is the charter also for the people of Big Rapids to understand what the guardrails are, right? So it's fine to keep it in for him, but can we explain what that means?
I think it's okay to keep it in for people like us too, because you can kind of get the context of it, and you can ask.
I'm not saying that we remove it, I'm saying should we add an explanation for the layman to understand what the word means?
Gosh, I feel like we could do that all over the place, though.
Well, after
Good, there's some
spread, you
places
could do
that-
a comma, put a couple of those words, or in parentheses.
That's what I'm suggesting is, would it be worth a parenthetical expression to explain to the layman what that means? Instead of like changing the word or removing it.
I don't feel strongly anyway.
I don't have any problem understanding what it's saying. I'm okay with the way it is.
Okay. Any other question on that?
It looks like we had, something else highlighted in section 9.3.
That's me.
I know we had, I had that highlighted in my copy as well. The mayor, with the consent of the city commission, may remove any member of the board of review for misconduct or neglect of duty.
Got a note that says, why isn't the wording like all the rest of them? To be consistent. Because there's a lot of sections where it says, removal of office, and it doesn't seem to be the same as the rest of them. That was my note, removal of office, why not like the rest?
I don't know if is the language here significantly different from other?
Maybe
Is it the fact that it's in the,
Sections for some other ones earlier on.
maybe city manager. Maybe an appointed position.
I think it's framed probably in other questions. Don't other ones say something like, members of the Board of Review serve at the pleasure of?
Well, it doesn't serve as the pleasure of the commission. The assessor does, but not the members of the board. That's a board.
So that might be why this feels different than some of the other places.
I don't know, particularly because it's about taxation as opposed to other things, that wording is specific to the taxation. For example, in the next section, section 14 of the planning commission, page 20, it's section 14.6. It says the mayor and city commission shall remove from office any member of the planning commission who is absent from 3 consecutive meetings unless the planning commission excuses the absences and enters the reasons for the absences in its official minutes. It doesn't say anything about misconduct or neglect of duty.
I wonder if that isn't just somebody in like, a version of what we're doing here last time. Said, oh, we gotta get something in there that does give the mayor the power to do that. Because they didn't duplicate.
I wonder if there's a note in our minutes from last time about what we were thinking when it was highlighted. That would help guide us as to why it was highlighted. Is that the question?
I think Tammy's note's probably the most clear, but it does look like all the earlier ones are sort of at the pleasure of the.
That's the elected, the
Right,
appointed.
which is why this one is worded differently.
But these board members aren't, they're appointed, but they don't serve as the pleasure of the commission. The appointed people, like city clerk, the assessor, the city manager, the city treasurer, all work at the pleasure of the commission, not board members. Board members, like you're on Park and Rec, you don't serve as the pleasure of the commission.
I feel like I do.
Board. You know what I mean? But you can be removed, but that's usually by your bylaws. By bylaws. Now, whether this has got something to do with the statute, I'm not positive.
That would be a good thing to know.
Because that's, board of review is a state statute regulated board. Maybe why it's worded that way too.
Yeah. We will have to check on that one when we do our board reviews, our review of all the various boards.
Point.
9.3.
9.3. Anything else on those? moving on. You have in your packet materials I sent forward about potential legal consultant Peter Westman. And we have here, his responses to all of our questions that we agreed upon. I was able to get in touch with 3 of his 4 references. You have that information in front of you. Pattern that I discerned from this, apart from the fact that he has a wealth of experience in this practice. One of the themes that I noted across all 3 references was A, he is very knowledgeable, he is very easy to work with, he's personable, he takes the time to explain things, he will come to meetings, he has attended meetings of some of these other cities, but he does not interject himself into the meeting. It's not his show, and he doesn't ask the questions. He, of course, draws on his experience from myriad other municipalities in offering some suggestions, perhaps where he sees fit. And his fee is the exact same as our city attorneys. It's $250 an hour.
Does that include travel time?
I assume so, but I don't know that. I did have to break it down. Discussion? Yes.
We don't have anybody to compare it to. But I didn't see any like red flags. My only question is just the travel time. $250 an hour to drive an hour is a pretty good deal.
Would he meet with us remotely? Would he?
I was just gonna ask
First
that.
of all, we don't, I think he comes if we want him to come. I don't know that he necessarily insists on being here for every meeting.
We could call him,
Um,
dial him into meetings.
He's in Grand Rapids.
Are we allowed to do that?
Well,
we
it's
would
gonna
need-
count towards the 250, right? So how much, is there a minimum phone call? Do we wanna get a list of questions before we call them?
Well,
Yeah, no, I
my
just mean to
experience-
avoid being
Yes,
charged for his
I
travel.
agree
My
with that too.
experience with attorneys, and Mr. Fowler works the same way, they divide the hour into like 10 or 15-minute increments. And so I'm not sure how he handles travel, he didn't say, but it's certainly something that, now I don't know if you want to have him come up and meet with us.
I don't wanna do anything that costs extra. That's what I think.
I would say that if we were displeased with him, we could just not continue to take advantage of his services.
Do we don't have a contract or something?
Well, we would need to generate a contract. I don't, these are all questions that I would need to ask him. Once we had determined that he, we would like to pursue him as our consultant. And I'm certainly happy to do that. I already have a list of questions that I would like to be asking him. I think what really stuck out to me about him and through the references, I looked at his website, and you feel free to go to his website. He has Letzman at LetzmanAssociates.com or whatever. One of the things that he's also a mediator as well as an attorney, but the other thing that he labeled himself as is an educator. And if you read from the Essexville gentleman, he said he came in, their previous attorney had just abandoned them, basically in the middle of the process.
Full mess.
And so, he steps up, he sets in, he knows people, I think he knows George Ellsworth, who is the gentleman at the AG's office. Communicates with him, they're friendly, communicates with him clearly, and will really help us to stay on track to get done, but more importantly, to get done right. So that I think we have a much greater chance of getting through that review, because I looked at the checklist that Mr. Ellsworth sent us, and I'm like, this like a lot of gobbledygooky language, legalese language, so. My sense is, he's approachable, he makes himself available, he gets answers back to you like the next day. All good. Good. So if you're okay with that, I would like to contact him, say that yes, we are interested in working with him. What are our next steps? We are gonna need to formulate a contract. Now, I did ask Carla, our city treasurer, to send me our most up-to-date budget rendering at this point, and we have used up about $1,525 of our attorney account, which was $5,000. So it leaves us about, what, 34? Right now, we have $34.75 left in the till. And what I will ask, we will need to be putting in a budget amendment to either the city manager or the city commission, I'm not sure. It depends on where they're drawing our money from. So I will get a kind of a guesstimate from him, given where we are, what he thinks is going to be necessary coming down the road, to see if we can't get an appropriate amount to submit for approval.
See if you can get it from whenever we contract him to July 1st of 25. And then from July 1st, 25 to, 26.
Am I right that he cannot call into our meetings because of open
He
meetings?
can, he's not a member.
Okay.
There's no reason why we couldn't call him and we could talk to him. We can't, you
Yeah.
guys can't,
Yeah.
we can.
And you get $250 an hour. I'm starting to rethink my life choices.
Oh, I did that many years ago.
Right.
I mean,
Many years ago,
The job of being a consultant has got to be the dream job.
It is for sure.
Because you go in, you tell them what you think, they pay you, and before anything bad happens, you're done. Too
And then
bad.
they don't do any of this
money.
bullshit
whether they
stuff.
follow you or not, you're paid. Yes, Mr. White. Yes.
Did we
It's a
reach
good
out to anyone else to see if anyone was interested in helping, or did we specifically reach out to him?
I specifically reached out to him, but I also contacted two other law firms. Back up a second. I contacted a woman at the Michigan Municipal League. And what she did was to give me, she pointed me to a link on their website, which gave me a directory of legal firms that do this kind of work. So I reached out to two of those firms. I never heard back from them.
We don't want that.
We don't want that.
That's a big red flag.
So, anyway. Okay, we will go ahead and contact Peter Letzman and see if he's still willing to work with us and get that going. It would be really nice to have him on board before December. I can just pummel him before the holidays. And why not? And I will ask the questions that need to be asked, and then I will get that information out to you. Sound good? Is that right?
It's all right.
Okay. Now, to chapter 11. All right. Chapter 11, special assessments. Couple of sections here. Anyone have any burning questions?
From the city staff notes, on 11.1, there's a note that the commission does not have us do this anymore.
They don't have a what?
It just says the commission does not have us do this anymore. That's the city commission resolution.
You think we should take that whole section out? Who told you this?
I don't know, it's
In the
I
notes.
don't know who it is that said it or what specifically they don't do.
Oh,
We don't no longer do sidewalk assessments. Doesn't necessarily mean we won't in the future do any assessments. I wouldn't suggest taking it out at all.
Yeah, it just gives them the authority to do it.
Yeah, if they want to. We used to do sidewalk assessments where the person paid 50%, the city paid 50%. Now the city's paying 100%. Doesn't mean we can't go back to it, doesn't mean we can't do something different in the future.
Or use a special assessment for some other purpose.
Exactly.
My only thoughts on this section was that special assessments is not a layman-friendly term.
You don't think so? I'm pretty dumb and I get it.
Well, I guess you're not as dumb as I am.
Well, it'd be kinda hard. Sorry. You tee them up, I'm gonna whack them.
It's a question of anything. How accessible is this term to other people who may not be as engaged in city operations and familiar with those?
I don't see any context to define what special assessment is in the text.
You raised this issue the last time, about maybe we could include
Just
a little blurb at the
11.2 says-
beginning.
special assessment is.
11.2 does. It says here, federal ordinance, special assessment procedure concerning plans and specification, estimating costs, notices of hearings, preparing the assessment roll, correcting errors, collecting special assessments, and any other matters pertinent to the process of making improvements with special assessment.
And from that, would you gather that a special assessment would be something like putting in a sidewalk? Because that's a concrete, pardon the pun, tangible thing that someone can understand. And all of that is purely abstract, and most of it is like referring back to itself to define itself. So like, I do not see a layman making any sense out of any of this.
Well, and I think, that goes to your point about the assessment language used to describe it, that it's industry jargon rather than lay terms. At the same time, I do wonder, to what extent is this a document that's really, that anybody is going to go through to understand how the city is empowered, if they're a member of the public versus is the language important to
That's the question.
instruct?
Is it something for everyone, or is it something that's really just for the city is using this document?
I think it's where we help everyone use terms that specifically instruct city staff.
What about the statement where it says right there in 11.1, the resolution shall state the estimated cost of the improvement, which could be any kind of improvement, what proportion of the improvement's cost should be paid by the special assessment, what paid, if any, is to be paid by the city, and the number of installments in which assessments may be paid. Maybe that should be, cost to be paid by, instead of special assessment, should be paid by the resident. Because actually, that's.
Hey, Google, what's a special assessment?
Unfortunately, I can't tell you what the special assessment is without more information. A special assessment is a levy that homeowners associations or local governments periodically charge homeowners under certain circumstances. There are two main types of special assessments. Actually, hold on, let me start over. I'm a text-based AI, and that is outside of my capabilities.
He was gonna do it, and then he didn't.
Chickened out.
We're starting to.
Next year he'll do it.
Started good.
I highlighted a section that I think is relevant. It's in 10.2, but it says special assessments made for the purpose of defraying the cost of any public improvement. Sidewalks, sewers.
I get that we here understand that public improvement might mean sidewalks or sewers, but like, that is still incredibly vague and purely abstract.
I just think we don't break out in an aside in others.
And I do think we have to be careful about offering examples because people will get caught up in that verbiage.
Yeah,
Sidewalks in there, someone's coming.
What I would suggest would just be, at the beginning, it just says, a special assessment is. And it's a simple sentence, not a like compound, complex sentence of purely abstract stuff. I don't know that we need it, I'm just throwing it out there that like, it's something to consider.
Well, defraying the cost of any public improvement is pretty spot on. That's not abstract, I don't think.
Okay, abstract is like square, 2, 3. Concrete is chair, sky, desk.
I don't feel like we need it, but I appreciate what you're saying.
Thanks.
because
And I'm not saying either way, I'm just
Right.
trying to say this is something to consider.
because,
I can't get past the break in voice it would create for the document, which sometimes points to whether or not it's being done consistently throughout the document.
Yeah.
I think there are other instances where people of any level of ability could be reading it and get stumped on something, but we don't really stop and do like definitions in the body of this text.
Right.
So I'm just concerned that breaking away from that, in this specific case, it might open the door for us to have to do a lot of that to make that more like the rest of the document.
Yeah.
Or it may kind of stop a person reading it and maybe then somebody at state level when they're reviewing it and have them ask, why are you choosing this particular piece of food?
That makes
for
sense
your
to me.
reader versus all the other places
Yeah.
that you could have done so? I get that.
It occurred to me that there could be an addendum that, of definitions,
That might not be a bad idea.
although that's sometimes less, like, useful to the layman, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to flip, and they're flipping back, and they're flipping back, and it would be more efficient just to have definitions available, but I don't know that we need it at all, it's just a consideration.
I think the addendum might be a good idea.
Which I don't know that we would need an addendum to pass through the state. Like, maybe we would, maybe we wouldn't,
I don't think so.
but like, I just think like a definitions addendum, could be another way of
A
addressing those
separate
issues.
document that's useful to read and
Yeah.
understanding this. That's kind of how I would help them. I think, without working stuff into this that's inconsistent with the rest of it.
Did you folks get the copies of the 4 charters that Mr. Lutzman sent forward? The ones that he worked on? Okay, I don't know if you wanna just, one of the things that, we're gonna continue to grapple with, which I'm hoping, and I think he will be able to help us with this in terms of how to look at the charter as a whole. Because on the one hand, we want, it has to be appropriate to rigorous governmental principles, but not hog-tying the city commission, so tight that they can't have the flexibility they need. But the other thing that we're grappling with is this accessibility to the layperson in terms of the language, and I think he could give us some good insight into that. He has worked, if you notice those examples he gave, 2 of those cities are very small, like less than 1,000 people. And then the other 2 are big cities, Pontiac and Flint. So I think he could give us some good perspective on this to help guide us, because ultimately at the end, we're gonna be wordsmithing this again anyway. And, he might be able to give us a perspective that we haven't thought about yet in terms of how to handle that.
Well, we have all sorts of different technology available to us too. We could do this document and then do a PDF version of it that has an overlay that has little boxes that break out those definitions. So it doesn't need to be stayed as a true appendix.
Yeah, makes sense too.
I did a quick Google search, city special assessment. It gives us a very similar definition. It just includes specifically roadway and utility projects.
I feel like that's actually much clearer to understand than what we have here, but
I mean, it's getting to the same thing, and anyone who's reading the charter is probably gonna consult Google on something. They can find an answer really quickly and easily, just not.
It's the age of Google.
Just not one that we've manufactured for
It
them.
is the age of Google.
okay. I'd like to think that, but then if you go on Ask Big Rapids, you have people asking questions that they could have typed into Google, but they prefer to ask Big Rapids, where they get a lot of unreliable information that does not agree with
They're
each
looking
other.
for somebody to confirm their bias is what they're looking for.
I don't think they are.
No?
There's
I
only
don't
so
think
much
they're
we can
actually thinking about it at all. I think they just have a question and they don't think to Google things first. But, I mean, I do, like, I often share links, let me Google that for you, but,
Nice of you.
it's incredible how dumb I am that I would bother.
Oh, chill out, dude, chill out. You tee them up for me, I'm gonna whack them.
The key to survival in this day and age is having research skills. Knowing how to ask questions and where to go for answers.
Oh, I think
But
people
then-
skills are
then
pretty
how
useful, too.
How to parse the BS from the good stuff. That's the really hard part. This is where AI scares the bejesus out of me, but that's a conversation for
We've seen the
another day.
movies, that's why. We know.
That's a conversation for another day. Okay, are we ready to move on from chapter 11? On the municipal utilities. Ooh. I just had a question, in 12.5.
I have one.
Oh, well,
We list water, light, heat, power, gas, sewage treatment, and disposing of recycling waste. I think that it's possible that the city could ever have an internet service that they would provide.
I was thinking about that.
They contract
They could.
for
But
internet service.
could they?
Some cities are doing that now, contract with a.
And we have a contract with the cable companies that are, Spectrum for the internet, or like a utility. I agree with you. I thought of that too, but I couldn't come up with the correct information services.
I would just use the word internet probably, but
That'd be simple. People know what the internet is.
yeah, I mean,
Information services, I
there's
meant.
probably multiple ways of having sewage treatment or disposing of recycling waste. I don't know. I don't know whether we need to include it or not. It just seemed like maybe this is something that would be.
But the city does the recycling waste? It's not,
It's not whether or not they do, it's whether or not they can.
So you're asking, would the city ever offer its own internet service?
No, would we, if they put internet fiber optic down the middle of our street, that would be the same thing as what, the electric power is. Oh, yeah, you're right. It needs to be information services or internet services or something like that. That's, it would, like
In other
the,
words, it becomes a part of the city infrastructure and therefore right of way
yeah.
relates to it where we might not consider that it does right now.
We got gas and electric right now that are franchisees.
We have internet cable right outside our house
Yeah,
from,
Spectrum.
no, it's not
You're talking
Spectrum,
about
it's Point
fiber optic.
Broadband, actually. But we didn't purchase Point Broadband. They laid it under our
I think it was Cassier at the time.
tree
Yeah.
lawn on the Oak Street side.
Yeah, they hit my sewer line. They haven't reimbursed me.
Yeah, they're pretty good at that, aren't they?
Asking me to subscribe.
So the question is, should we add internet services as part of the utilities? Is that what you're suggesting?
Throwing it out there.
I would say put that.
It's kind of covered by and other utility services.
Like we listed out all these other specific ones.
Put after sewage part, treatment, put in internet services.
or even on the, for power.
Yeah, somewhere in that sentence.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Net broadband.
Stacy, where are you gonna put it?
Your choice, Stacy. It's all on you.
How do we want to specify internet or do something like communication or?
Broadband too,
Or
wasn't it?
broadband
Yeah.
services or?
I think broadband is a specific type.
I do too, yeah.
Broadband is like cable, I think, and fiber optic is like the upgrade from cable. They're not the same thing.
I think just internet services works.
What'd you say, Ann?
I think just internet services works.
Or we could do telecom
Or, I mean,
Services?
communication, I think, is
falls in there.
communication, information services. That's kind of
There's so
verbose.
many options. My head might pop.
We'll
Just
put
pick
it on
one.
your shoulders, make a decision.
Stacy.
This is in your ballpark here. It's in your wheelhouse.
No pressure, Stacy.
Right, so what I'm hearing is I am in control of the document, whatever I put in here is what you're all going with.
Yep.
Yes.
And if it's wrong, we'll all say Stacy did it.
Have this whole thing done next week.
Whoa, really?
You might not like it.
What
You just start like, delete.
Did you add something? I can't tell.
She did.
Communication services between
Oh.
power and gas.
Communication services, you just changed the word.
I asked for the word.
She did.
I thought
I like it.
I thought we agreed on internet services. Okay, communication
We
services.
might not be using internet 15 years from now, it'll be some new technology or new name for it.
Oh, there you go, thinking ahead.
And also like things like cell phone towers or other means of cell phone communications or other unbeknownst to us technologies that could come into being in the next 10 years.
All right.
You never know.
I just had a question on 12.5. Maybe, I don't know if Tammy, you can answer this or not. What is an unexpendable asset?
I was thinking that that must be referring to like necessary equipment for the function of a service. So like the sewage treatment facilities, I've not toured them, but I imagine that they have equipment, machinery within the structure that if they removed it, they could no longer perform the purpose of sewage treatment.
The only reason we would remove it is to replace it.
That's what it says later on.
Like the screws and screw pumps in the
It says
wastewater treatment plant?
I don't believe they would be selling,
exchange of equipment which is worn out or useless or
yeah.
with advantage to the service, basically an upgrade could be replaced with a new and improved machinery or equipment. So the unexpendable is, you know, actual equipment.
Yeah, it's the vital.
It's a non-expendable item that is required to be retained indefinitely. It would be considered a capital asset.
So like durable.
Cars,
goods,
other
basically.
vehicles, communications equipment.
Mechanical equipment.
Anything, no one cares about the tax stuff, but anything that would be depreciable would fall in this category.
Okay, thank you. Feel smarter already. All right.
I'm
are
not
there-
capable.
That's a weird paragraph.
Yeah.
Look how smart we're all gonna be by the end of this process.
It wasn't unexpendable, that says non-expendable, what's an unexpendable?
That's an unexpendable asset is a
Is a non-expendable
There you go.
item that is required to be retained indefinitely.
So it's gonna be things that last more than a year.
Yeah, a durable.
Screw pumps and,
I mean, like even a computer, it's like if you needed a computer to do your job,
that's,
you can't sell the computer without
Right.
replacing it so that you can continue to do the job.
Ready? Are there any questions remaining on chapter 12? All right, moving on, last but not least, contracts, franchises, and permits, chapter 13.
So there are quite a few notes from city staff on this, but if anyone has anything, I'll do those first.
one, 13.2, it says the main city manager, I think it should say, or designee. Because preparing plans and specification, estimating the cost, but that's all staff does that, goes out for bid, stuff like that, staff does that. Say, or designee, yeah.
With that?
I had 13.3.
We've already established that, I think.
Have you already?
Yeah, what would you say for that one, Stacy, 13?
So
3B?
13.3B, I figured we would change that to match what we had in section
8.10,
8.1.
8.10.
My other thing on that section was that it's got a paragraph break that's not good. And that actually there should
yeah,
probably be a
there's a space
paragraph
there.
break
Oh, yeah.
on no. Like no such order shall be effective, that could be a paragraph break maybe.
So what you're saying is you're raising the 7,500?
Um,
Well, here,
we're working, we need to make that congruent with section 8.10, which had to do with the adjusting for inflation.
Scale
Right,
it down.
but here's the
But we came out with 12,500.
But my point was also going to be that I think that's a somewhat outdated sum, and I wonder if we raised to 10,000 to start with. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I think-
You gotta be careful though. Look, I worked in construction for 30 years. People get lowball bids, and then they charge you for every little change order. So if you keep raising it, make them show every bit of why they're saying it.
We do, that's not what this section,
Yeah, but I mean, if you,
7.5 is just for, if you have less than 75,000 or 7,500, it doesn't have to go to the commission. It has nothing to do with the contractors.
but
If it's over 75, it has to have commission approval.
But what he's saying is,
you're gonna raise it to 12.5, so they can, without going to,
City commission,
Yeah,
so you're giving them
5 months.
more leeway.
because things are so much more expensive.
Yes, they are, but
I mean, to me, 75 isn't enough either.
no.
I mean, 12.5 isn't nothing.
So I'm leery about raising enough without commissions, because I've worked with contractors that's what they did.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I do vendor bidding.
Yeah, so
And
it's,
you do see that, but I think in this case, I think at least 10 or 12.5, because this amount hasn't been adjusted per what, it's scaled to what the city needs to do. And this is from 2012.
Well, before that.
So I think we adjust it now for inflation to whatever we agree it should be, but then with the system Stacy came up with,
yeah.
phrase it so that it's scalable to inflation.
am I reading this wrong? It says alterations or change orders to contracts, blah, blah, blah. Does that imply that this only applies to contracts?
Where are you reading that at?
No, it would be any expenditure of the
13.3B.
money, expenditure above that amount would have to be a contract.
13.3B.
Only because, I mean, I'm just thinking that just because there's a change doesn't mean that no one is going to review it or can deny it, right?
I've seen them,
I think we're talking about two different things here. The first section talks about the city, what the city needs to buy to fix this. And this is a contract to outside the city, and that's where what Jim's saying it comes in. Yeah, anytime you get a change order of, yeah, we're gonna need another $2,500 or another $10,000. I think that's what this one's saying is that they can just do it $7,500 at a time and nobody has to.
Okay, so there's the $7,500 limit that used to exist, and that can be for services or for goods, right, that the city is purchasing. That's like their limit where they have to engage in bidding after
Right.
that point. It's got the same handbrake for this particular case where on that bid, somebody might be after the fact looking to do a change order to it. So I think there's an amount that something might change by, and then there is the actual value of the contract, right? This is independent of the value of the contract. This is just the amount, this is setting the amount of that contract where you want to review those change orders.
That's what this section is.
And if most contracts already come with something that say like they'll only accept a certain amount of like variation or of change to it. So I can't imagine, I don't know, maybe this is faulty reasoning, but I can't imagine that they would be coming to the city for something that's in excess of the contract value.
That's what I'm saying. The section itself says contracts. So it sounds like if you want to change the contract, if it's under, right now, $7,500, that can be changed, but you wouldn't have to go through the city commission to change it.
Right.
But you still have a contract, right? That contract is, the contractor can't just say, well, I'm throwing this contract out and I'm charging you another $2,000.
This is just saying if it's,
Like, well,
if
that's
the-
not in the contract, so you can't do that.
This is saying if the total value of the contract is over whatever amount is there in the parenthetical, then it has to be approved by the city.
By the city commission. Not by, because like, it could be that like, Heather in Public Works or something, right, is got an expenditure that she's paying and she's got a contract and she could handle the contract herself under that amount. It's not that no one is responsible.
It's just that if,
Who is responsible after a certain amount?
I just got a change order on my desk just the other day for, I mean, it was the hugest for the raw water, which was a huge project. You know, and sometimes they're gonna have change orders here. Maybe they couldn't do this or they couldn't do that, or this was more expensive now than what was 2 years ago, or, you know, so I mean, sometimes we do get change orders, but it's not a lot.
And it doesn't, even if it was under the amount, you would still have to review it and get approval and write up a new contract and,
And they usually mark, usually,
I mean, the projects I've seen around town mostly are like by one construction company, so it.
yeah, because they're the only ones that bid.
Yeah, so that leads me to worry in the long run, because if you're relying on, you know, you build relationships good and bad, you know, with just one, and you're not having other contractors out there that are doing something.
a lot of times when these projects, when we're doing like our CIPs and we're budgeting money for these projects and we go out for bid for them, if they come in over budget, we may not even do that project, or we may go out bid again.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and you're doing,
We're not saying, oh, I guess we have to settle for that. We don't.
and I don't know about you, but for me, being part of the state entity, if I put anything up to bid, like, I have to put jobs over a certain amount out to bid, and I need to be able to show I got 3 bids.
Yeah.
Like
We
through
do too.
transparent bidding
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, we have a whole purchasing policy.
I remember some projects where all of the bids were way over budget, and they had to just table it.
Or maybe we scale down what we're
Well,
asking
well, you
for.
remember, even like with the Hemlock Park project, they wanted to do everything together, and that price tag was so huge. First of all, they couldn't get
They
a
could get a
company
bid.
to
Couldn't get any bidder.
take it all on, so they broke it up. Our, what was it, Fleece and Vandenbrink, our engineering firm, broke it up into phases and different parts, like the splash pad or this or that or the other thing, and then
we
did
still
bids.
only got like one bid on one part of the project, and it was like during the pandemic, and so then they just waited and put it back out to bid, like, in like 6 months, and then finally got some bids, and
Splash pad was what, 2 times out?
it was a lot. Yeah, it was crazy. It was really sad. It was like, okay, we're sending it out to bid, and we didn't get any. Okay, we made some changes, it's going out to bid, and we got one, and it was astronomical for like the smallest, simplest thing. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we're good with that?
So are we, what are we doing with that? So are we gonna mirror the same amount we had last time?
Right. Adjusted for inflation. You'll put it in July 2024, November 2020. Doesn't matter. I'll be consistent. Okay, and then we'll make the next paragraph, starting with no such order.
Does that paragraph make sense to people?
Yeah, I think that's what they.
Okay, anything on 13.4? Any of the remaining sections of chapter 13?
I do that, I was just fixing my writing.
Okay, I just had a question on 13.5, the very last sentence. Is this the current practice that the city does not grant exclusive franchise or franchise for a term longer than 30 years?
We're now mostly 5 years.
Mostly 5 years? Oh, okay.
With maybe some extensions, but I think I'd have to look it up. We've done a couple of them. I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure they go past 20.
Is it that the city would get a better deal if they could lock in for 30 years, or the other way around?
I'm not sure. I know 30 years is a long time.
A long time for
Staff,
anybody.
20 years is staff, you get changeover in staff, and it's hard to keep,
It's
an eye on all these.
so let it all
Got
burn.
over staff is always.
Yeah.
I think
It's a long time.
it's like the city gaining an advantage by allowing ourselves to have a maximum of 30 years.
Right.
Why are we setting ourselves up to be at a disadvantage because we let somebody lock in a rate that, like, adjusted for inflation, they would have paid a crap ton more if we made them renegotiate their franchise every 5 years.
Theoretically, it could go both ways, right?
Okay.
But it's, I think the principal thing of allowing them to franchise for up to that amount of time, there'd be some potential benefit to the city.
It comes down to how
Come
esteemed
in at
the
a
people in
a
charge.
rate that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
I think 30 years is crazy and 20 years is probably more than enough.
So we're changing the years?
Are we changing from 30 to 20 years?
I would have to research what our last couple of franchises.
Maybe we should circle back to this.
Okay, this one, I'd like that one.
I thought 13.6 was in a funny place. I thought it was funny that like 13.6, it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, we're gonna continue all of the contracts and franchises that existed before this charter.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, they're just grandfathering those 30-year ones in, so they're not
I just thought it was a.
violating their
13.6 seemed
contract.
like it could be 13.1 or, I just
Or
thought
at
it
the
was,
very end, I don't know.
yeah.
They
it
could
just-
probably be A and B.
Yeah,
Well, I think it makes sense if we do change that to 20 years to have it after, because then you're saying the ones that we, you know, if someone was locked in for 30 years, now it says 20, we're saying whatever that was before is fine. So I do think it makes sense after in this scenario, but in a lot of them, it doesn't necessarily make sense.
go along with that.
Okay, anything else on chapter 13? Well done.
Did you say this, there were a lot of notes from the city in this
Yeah,
chapter?
we covered those notes as our normal discussion.
How good we are. Dang.
All right. Is there any public comment? Is there any public? Okay.
Someday,
There being
maybe.
no public, the only announcement that I have is to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving, and I generally and genuinely hope that it is conflict-free, however you and your family or friends get together.
Family.
Keep it positive.
We're having a Friendsgiving.
Friendsgiving.
What we're doing.
But, you know, I hope you all have, you know, if you're traveling, please travel safely. Our next meeting is December 11th. We're going over chapters 14 and 15, and may I please remind everyone, if you have questions on this material, please send it forward to Tammy so she can collect it. FYI, our next meeting will be Tammy's last meeting with us. She is retiring on December 13th, 2 days after our meeting.
We drove her out. Like, can we say that?
And I just want to, if I may be allowed, I would like to offer a public thanks and a round of applause to both Tammy and Karen for an excellently run election in a very difficult year.
Yes.
And they're still alive and still talking in coherent sentences.
Yeah, you got, because a lot of you here worked that election, and that just made
Thank
me
you,
appreciate you all
Jen.
more.
Yeah.
We greatly appreciate it.
Yes,
The people coming in were nice.
that's good to hear.
Good.
You know,
Yeah.
Whatever side they were on, they were human beings. And
Oh, good.
Good.
Yeah, we only had a couple weird, and it was nothing
Nothing dangerous or.
like, oh, it was like, oh,
I got, you
One
know,
kid, you had come back here and sat here for an hour, and you had to call the state about him, and then he came, you know, and he patiently waited, and you found it out, and then he came back and still voted. It's like,
He was a peach, I'll tell you what.
tell you what, holy
He
cow,
was, he
man.
was so sweet.
was
doing a
that the
job.
black guy with dreads?
No, this was the young,
Yeah, there was one kid
Yeah,
that he
he-
wasn't gonna vote, and his girlfriend, you said, you should go vote, and he went and came down here and got signed up and came back.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Meeting is
power
adjourned.
of love.
Yeah.
The power of,
Yeah, what are you gonna say?
no, it's, I'm looking for the right word.
It's about to be the 4B movement.
The power of,
Persuasion?
No, propositions, because it was a proposal, right? Like, was it 2016 or 2020 that we changed the law around when you can register to vote?
22.
22?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty recent. It's like, it was the same,
A lot of changes then.
that, automatically registered people to vote when they renewed their driver's license, which I love.
Yeah.
So often,
When I changed.
people are like, well, I'm not registered, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.